Everybody Needs to Eat Lunch with Jordan Ostroff, episode 72. Are you ready to make your law firm a profit-generating machine that will free up your time and skyrocket your impact? With more than 2 decades of business growth experience and having proven that you can be successful while prioritizing your family and your impact, introducing the Profit with Law podcast. I am your host, the creator of the Firm Differentiator 10X Effect, Moshe Amsel. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Profit with Law. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel, and today I bring to you another amazing guest interview with a gentleman by the name of Jordan Ostroff. He's an attorney down in Florida. And before I get into talking about Jordan, I just want to share with you something I mentioned on the podcast on Tuesday that was released. And that episode was completely about dealing with the current situation with the coronavirus and social distancing, and what kind of effects that might be having on your firm and on your ability to do business. And because of what's going on right now, there's 2 initiatives that we're working on here at Profit with Law. And the first is we had planned on creating a membership called the Incubator, the Law Firm Growth Incubator, intended and aimed at the firms who are just getting started. So firms who are in the maybe less than 100,000 or less than 150,000 revenue range, where you're not in the position to outsource your marketing, outsource your tech, outsource your system and process creation. You really kind of need to do everything yourself as a firm owner. And rather than you needing to try to figure out which direction to go and what you need to learn and what's important and what's not important, we wanted to give you some guidance there. So we're creating this membership that you can basically get all of the education that you need for running a firm when you are the person who's doing everything. And we were not quite ready to release it, but because of what's going on right now, we know that a lot of you are hurting, are wondering, what's next, and we wanted to provide support for you. So we wanted to get this thing started early. And in order to do that, because there isn't anything there yet, and we're just going to start off with some live support calls every month until that content is built out, instead of the $150 a month that it's going to be eventually, we're offering it to the first 50 people who join for $27 a month. So if you're interested in that, if this is if you're in this category and you want to give it a spin, give it a whirl, check it out, come and join us for $27 a month. And what I'm going to tell you is that right now, there's nothing there. You'll go to profitwithlaw.com/incubator. You'll put in your credit card information. You'll get charged $27, and it's going to be nothing that you get. However, as early as next week, we will start to have those support calls for you. The goal is to have a call a week. Whether we'll be at a call a week right away, I don't know. But what I do know is that if after a month you want to get out, it's not for you, I'll refund that first $27 back to you as well. So I am sure that you're going to get far more value than what the charge is. And I want to reward those who are our early adopters. And also because it's not a fully fleshed out product, I just don't feel comfortable trying to promote it at the price that it's going to be at eventually. And the nice thing is you'll get locked into that price for good. So as long as you want to stay a member, that's what you're going to pay, that $27 a month. So again, go to profitwithlaw.com/incubator, profitwithlaw.com/incubator. Join us there. We're going to have our first support call next week. And if I could pull it off and make it work, it's going to be all about what you can do right now, even if there are no clients to be had, to set yourself up for success with marketing efforts that you can do now that's going to set the foundation for when this thing turns around to have that book of business pick right up and get into action. So That being said, that's one thing we have going on. The second thing that we have going on is we have a series of live streams we're going to be kicking off starting on Monday. And those live streams, I'm going to go through the topics real quick. So there's 10 of them over the course of the next 2 weeks that we've mapped out. And if this thing continues for longer, we may continue to do these daily for you. Now, unfortunately, because of my schedule and trying to accommodate people in different time zones, we've varied the start time for it. So you're going to have to go and check it out to see if the times work for you. But starting on Monday, these are the topics we're going to be covering: serving clients while social distancing, managing stress and staying positive, marketing strategies to put you ahead, employees, how to keep them, working from home with kids, tools and technology for law firm survival, managing a cash crunch, getting new clients today, projects you've always wanted to get to, staying healthy, and performing self-care. Those are the 10 topics we have lined up right now. If you have a topic that you would love to see us bring onto these live streams and talk about, you have a challenge that you're working through that might be helpful for others as well, definitely drop us an email at info@dreambuilderfinancial.com. Now, I'm going to be dropping a bunch of links and a bunch of emails and all of that throughout this episode. So always, you can go to the show notes page to get those links. Everything's going to be linked up for you. And you get there at profitwithlaw.com/072 for episode 72. profitwithlaw.com/072. We also try to have everything clickable in the description of the show. That's a fairly new feature that the podcast players have. As far as I know, it works for me on my phone, and hopefully it works for you on yours. So you might not even have to go to the website. You probably could just click the link from there. So if you want to get notified when we are going live for these sessions, you want to check the times and dates for these sessions, you're interested in attending these live streams in any which way, shape, or form, you definitely want to go to profitwithlaw.com/COVID, COVID, profitwithlaw.com/COVID, and that will take you to a page where we've got all of this mapped out. You've got your dates, your times, the topics, and you can put in your name and email address there. And what we'll do is we'll email you for when each of these goes live, and we'll also send you an email with instructions of how to connect to them. So we're going to be trying to multicast this on different social platforms. I don't know if the tech is all going to work in our favor, but we'll give you instructions in that email of how to attend these live sessions. I'm really excited about this opportunity. We have some great experts coming onto the show with us. So we're going to be doing those live streams live, which means that there'll probably be a time for a Q&A at the end of each one where you can actually ask the experts who are on about the topic at hand. So we're here to support you, and this is going to be a wonderful opportunity to join with us and get help us get you through this current crisis. So we're about to go live here with the interview with Jordan Ostroff. Let me just tell you briefly what we're going to talk about and a little bit about Jordan. So Jordan really likes to do the analytics in marketing. He started a marketing company called LegalEase Marketing. That was a byproduct of him needing to really figure out how to successfully market his own law firm. Interestingly, his wife is an attorney too. They're partners in the firm. And LegalEase Marketing serves clients that have $5,000 a month or more in their marketing budget. If you have less than $5,000 in your budget, definitely listen, because I asked Jordan that exact question about 3/4 of the way through the interview to basically ask him his advice for somebody who does not have that budget, can't outsource to somebody else. You know, what should they do with their marketing? So this is a fun conversation. I like Jordan a lot. We connected very well, and I think you're going to really enjoy the content of this episode. I think it's going to hit home for a lot of you. Marketing is always something that we want to learn more about. Perhaps we're struggling with. We definitely want to figure out how to bring in more clients. Business development intake is always a big deal. So whenever I can have a marketing expert on the podcast, I think it's great. Even if Sometimes they might have conflicting information. Each one has something to share that you can glean value from. So let me give you the official intro, the official bio here for Jordan. I'll read it off, and then without wasting any more of your time, I'm going to introduce Jordan and bring him on here. Jordan Ostroff started Jordan Law Firm in 2015 with a goal to do things a different way. After years as a prosecutor, he saw some really excellent attorneys, but saw way fewer of them really leveraging technology and systems to build a great business. As this idea continued to snowball, he spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on back advertising and was left with two options: really commit to this plan and learn how to market as well, or quit and go do something else. Over the next few years, he built the firm from just him in one small office to a team of 10 across Central Florida. He then started working with other lawyers to help train them on systems and marketing, and eventually rolled out LegalEase Marketing, a holistic law marketing company that focuses not on leads, but on hired clients and consistency in the law firm experience. When he's not running one of those companies, Jordan spends a lot of time with his wife and son at SeaWorld, the Science Center, or just digging in the dirt outside. Jordan has a good sense of humor. Some of it may have come out in this episode, but I see a lot of it online. I interact with him socially, so I am looking forward to your feedback on this show. Enjoy it. Here is that interview with Jordan. Jordan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's absolutely my pleasure, and I appreciate you taking the time to do this interview with me. I came across you in one of the amazing Facebook groups out there for law firm owners, and something that you said or were doing triggered me to reach out to you and say, hey, let's chat on the show. And now that you're here, I'd like to know more about you, and I'm sure my audience would as well. So let's just start off with the basics. Just give me a little bit of an insight into your journey as a lawyer, becoming a law firm owner, and also this LegalEase Marketing. Like, what is it and how did it come about? So I might have thrown too much at you there with that one question, but paint the broad strokes for us.
You want me to tell the story of me? I think that as a lawyer and a business owner, if you can't talk about yourself, then maybe you need to find a different profession. So for me, I grew up in South Florida, came up to Orlando to go to the University of Central Florida, haven't left Orlando since, just, fell in love with the town, went to law school here, was a prosecutor here, got married here, have my firm here, etc. So for me, I knew the whole time that I wanted to be a prosecutor. Even before I knew what that meant, I had no idea what being a lawyer actually was. But once I found out, I really liked the courtroom atmosphere and the litigation experience. And so while I was prosecuting, I was coming in, I was like 24 at the time. I was like, this is awesome. I'm going to keep Orlando safe. I'm going to have all these terrible people that really need to be, put on the right side of the law. And then you realize that everybody is poor. They move too much. They missed this mail. Their license got suspended, something along those lines. And so I don't want to say I got jaded, because I think that's a little, too overbroad, but I definitely realized that we're dealing with human people that really needed to be helped just as much as they needed to be punished, and sometimes needed to be helped more. And so I got to meet some really awesome attorneys. One of them, offered me some office space when I was ready to make the jump. A couple of them took me under their wing, showed me what to do. And then eventually I wanted to grow from there. So that's kind of where LegalEase comes in. I worked with a bunch of different marketing companies that didn't know what it meant to be a lawyer, didn't know our ethics rules, didn't help me figure out my ideal client, didn't spend the money well. And so, you throw $100,000 to $200,000 sort of out the window, and you really want to figure out why you made those mistakes. And so we've grown the firm from just me. Now we've got 5 attorneys taking cases all over Central Florida. And then we started the marketing company so we can take a lot of the stuff that works for us and bring it out to other lawyers, so that hopefully we can make an easier success story of other lawyers than I had myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And marketing is just something that, every business owner struggles with the right marketing for them, but I think law firm owners specifically struggle with marketing, navigating which is the right step and when is the right time to bring on a marketing agency. But going back to your story real quick, I have a question before we jump into maybe perhaps a marketing discussion. And that is, how long were you a solo before you grew beyond that?
Well, so really I was never a solo. My wife's a lawyer. So we actually met in court on opposite sides. And so when I opened the firm, I owned half and she owned half, but she was teaching civics at the time. So I had sort of like a night and weekend backup attorney even from day one.
Mm-hmm.
And we found out that being a teacher at least in Orlando, is like the worst job you could have.
Right.
She felt a lot safer as a public defender than she did as a teacher. And so before the end of her first year, she came on full time. And then we had about 30 teachers that she was working with beg to be her paralegal, her legal assistant, or receptionist, whatever it was that they could come with her to, work somewhere else.
So you started with a 32 person firm.
Right.
Jobs for everybody. Oh wow. Okay, so that's an interesting piece of information there that you started this with your wife, and the two of you still working together now.
Still working together, happier with each other than we were when we first started. Still married, got a 2-year-old
You
through
have
all this.
two separate offices.
Well, so I mean, I have my room and she has her room in the same building. But yeah, no, it's been wonderful. I know you work with your wife as well, right?
Yeah, so I don't know how well that works. Yeah, no, we're in the same place because I work from home. She works from home, but she actually doesn't. She doesn't work for me. She's a probation officer, so
Oh, okay.
she's on the phone talking to convicted felons and and whatnot and doing background checks on them, and I'm having a conversation with a client, and if that bleeds over, it goes for a very interesting background sound effect for for whatever it is I'm doing, whether it's I try to do my podcast recording and video recording, anything that I'm doing that is sensitive to that. Try to do all of that on days that she's not working from home.
Gotcha.
uh,
Makes sense.
but yeah, I'm in the same space as her, and for me it's challenging, and I love her and I love hanging out with her, but when I'm trying to get work done, I want to be in that mode, and don't necessarily want to deal with whatever might come up because we happen to be in the house, we happen to be in the same place. But I don't think are you working from home, or you're in an office building?
Yeah, no. So we have our own building. It's an old house. It'll be about, I think actually this year it'll be 100 years old.
Wow.
So it's a nice setup. We used to, since having a child 2 years ago now, it's like impossible to work from home. You need that
Right.
separation, and then it doesn't bleed over as much. So my hat goes off to you to be able to juggle those things, because for me, I would just be stuck on my phone all day, not ever really engaging my wife.
Yeah. It's definitely a challenge, but I don't know that I want to focus this interview on that topic. We certainly can cover that, but I want to get back to what I think our listeners are going to be more interested in hearing about, which is your journey into not just marketing and understanding marketing, but starting a marketing firm behind it. And that's an interesting path to take. I guess a lot of people, when they get enough knowledge about something, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're just of that mindset, you're like, okay, well, now that I know this, why don't I offer this for somebody else? What did that journey look like? What were the wrong turns, like the biggest wrong turns that you took with marketing? And what do you do differently with your clients today that you wish you would have known when you started out?
So let me flip that question the opposite way, because it's easier to answer it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Biggest thing really that we do more than anything else is we will train and teach people about marketing. And so I'm convinced that you're going to have a better answer to your marketing needs than I can ever come up with. But I know the 10 or 15 questions that we need to ask so that we can really drill it all down to what's going to make the most sense for you with your clients, with your type of law, with your industry, with your area, all those things. So because my biggest problem was everybody was more than happy to take my money, none of them really wanted to know what I really wanted. Okay, we'll give you more leads, great, but they're people that don't have money, they're in the wrong area of town, they're the wrong kind of leads. They didn't care because we weren't on the same page. And I don't totally blame them. I mean, the biggest thing for me is I didn't know what I wanted with enough specificity to make sure that they were doing the right thing. But I went through, more than half a dozen different agencies, as well as Avo and Nolo and direct mail. I mean, we tried everything, and now thankfully, about 3.5 years later into the firm, I'm finally paid off most of the debt associated with those things.
Wow. So not only did you take wrong turns, but you actually went into debt for it. and you were still paying the piper 3 years later.
Right. So, and it catches up, and then you sign any long-term contracts, or or you're financing some of it on. We were at one point we were sending out tens of thousands of direct mail pieces every so often, and just not getting the right return on it, and not getting the right clients, and then
Mm-hmm.
had to get too large to be able to handle the volume, to not make the money off of it. So it just it amazed me how easy it was to not necessarily get in over my head, because thankfully we didn't have those problems, but just to kind of go off the rails from creating the firm that I wanted. And then
Right.
finally, once I sat back down, and instead of me fitting the firm, I made the firm fit me, realized that a lot of these skills were transferable to other lawyers. And so we spent most of 2019. I picked about 6 or 7 attorneys, local and in a couple other states. And then on January 1st, we opened up the doors to everybody else once we were confident in our platform, I guess.
Right. Yeah. One of the things that I harp on all the time in podcasts, when I'm doing coaching, when I'm having conversations with people, free coaching sessions, is the need to hone in on a very particular niche that you're going to serve. And what I tell people when I do that is I tell them, for nothing else, forget running your firm, forget serving your clients, just on the front end of being able to get the client that you want, you have to know who you're targeting. You have to know who you're talking to, because if you try to talk to everybody, you end up talking to nobody. And this is a concept that a lot of people just have a hard time wrapping their head around. Like, why can't I just put a billboard up and hope that people are gonna come? It sounds like that was your experience. It sounds like what the process you've worked out is to help people hone in and identify who is it that they want to work with. So can you take me through that process a little bit? How do you help your clients? How do you help tease that out of your clients? How do you help them figure out who they work with? Because my guess is that many of them are coming to the conversation not only not having that defined, but not even knowing what that is, because they've done it the other way for so long.
Well, so the short answer is, I mean, there are people that we just won't work with because they're not willing to focus. I mean, if you've got, so I'm in Orlando, we've got John Morgan over here, Morgan and Morgan. If you've got their budget, great, we can market to everybody. But that isn't the case. I mean, we'll have people that come to us and they've got, $1,000 to spend, $2,000 to spend, and they want to market to 3 different areas of law in 3 different counties.
Right.
We're just like, look, that's just not feasible, because I can't give you the right return because we're not focused enough. So the biggest thing, obviously we ask them about their area of practice. What area of law do you want to grow? What area of law are you the best at? What do you have the systems in place for? And then we try and get as detailed as we can on that. So within that area of law, who's your ideal client? I mean, yes, you're doing, personal injury cases, but maybe your ideal client is going to be a 30 to 40-year-old professional who's a realtor who's driving around to a bunch of showings, or, you want somebody that's going to have a longer time frame of injuries, or who's going to have a better earning potential. Or if you're doing criminal defense, are you targeting professionals who get DUIs? Are you targeting young kids on their first case? Are you targeting older people with, white collar type fraud cases? And then from there, we can kind of work backwards into, where's that person going to go to find you? Are they going to go to the yellow pages? Are they going to go on Google? Are they going to talk to a teacher? Are they going to talk to their best friend? And then try and figure out the right marketing strategy for you based upon where the ideal client's going to try to find you.
Right. So I want to point out, folks, I don't know if you picked up on it, but in the example that Jordan just gave us, like let's say DUI, he gave examples of different types of people, same crime. So you're not only is your practice area criminal law, not only is your specialty DUI, but your target market is even more defined than that. It could be a first-time offender. It could be a professional, well-to-do professional who's getting that DUI, or it could be somebody who's, on their 3rd or 4th offense, right? So even that level of specificity, Jordan, if I got this right, even that level of specificity is what's required for you to have a good and successful marketing campaign. Did I get that right?
For the most part, yes. I mean, again, if you've got $50,000 to spend, I can hit all 3 of those people. But if you really want to do this for, let's say $5,000 a month, then the more specific we're going to get, the better we're going to be able to use that, because we're going to look at we can look at the demographics across Facebook. versus Instagram versus LinkedIn. We can look at, running ads there. We can look at what the Google clicks are going to be and whatnot. But the more specific you get, the cheaper it is to hit those people, or the more you're able to hit them for the same amount of, I shouldn't say hit when we're dealing with criminal defense. The more you can target them, the more you can show up in their feed. They talk about the average person hires you based upon 5 to 7 points of contact, and it may be driving down I-4, looking at the billboard every day to and from work, but that's not going to be realistic for most people. I mean, you're not going to have the $50,000 to spend every month to get 10 billboards. You're going to put up one that nobody's going to come across enough.
Yeah. I actually talk in one of my episodes about there's a particular attorney that's got billboards all over. I'm in the New York area. So all around the New York City, like the suburbs, all the highways, there's billboards literally all over the place with this attorney's name on it. It just has his name and it says attorney at law. It doesn't say anything about what he does, doesn't have a phone number, and it gets me every time that I see it. I'm like, how many people are actually looking up this guy's name and looking to see what he does? Like, it's got to be the biggest waste of a marketing budget possible to have it's literally everywhere. There's got to be hundreds of these billboards.
And no
around
contact
New York.
info.
No, nothing. Just his name and attorney at law.
Okay.
So I would love to, maybe one day I'll reach out to him and contact him and see if I can get him on the show. I'd love to know, how that campaign is paying off. And, who knows, maybe he had a big accounts receivable and the person paid him off of billboard ads, you never know.
Even then, if they're not worth it, I'd rather have nothing than, I don't know. I mean, the whole point of marketing is to not make people have to make more work to determine that they want to hire you. It's to get them, to get them pre-sold on you and then to get them to contacting you when they're ready to buy. And it seems like that's way more complicated than it's worth.
Yeah. And even if nothing else, put your practice area on there, like put what kind of attorney you are. But anyway, I digress. So going back to our conversation where we were talking about, specificity of marketing and as it relates to budget, you threw out some examples about the different places that you would market. Is your focus primarily on digital marketing, on social and Google and stuff like that? What else do you deal with when it comes to marketing?
So we actually take a holistic approach, and our ideal client, like I'm going to set up Lawmatics as an intake system for them. And then that way we can track not only the total leads, but which of those hire. And then it's easier for them to follow through the case the whole way through. So by tracking that, then we're seeing like, all right, you're going to get 15 leads from this Google ad. From this Google ad, you only get 6. But on the one you get 6, all 6 hire. On the one you get 15, you're only signing up 3. So you're spending so much more time to weed through it. And so we're not necessarily focused on it has to be Google ads or it has to be Facebook or it has to be anything along those lines. We're focused on working together to come up with what we think is the best opportunity for them to be successful. At the end of the day, this is an art. It's not a science. Nobody can guarantee that the phone's going to ring, that they're going to be great clients. But at least then we're like, all right, we took a shot. We took the right shot in the right place. And so maybe, if they're looking for college kids because they do academic issues, then maybe we're targeting Instagram a lot more to put some ads over there, and then we can track through on the different UTMs, as well as I try to work with people to also help them build a referral base, because at the end of the day, referrals, I think, create the most long-term success. It's difficult to hit the ground running on referrals, but nothing prevents the big firm down the street from coming into your area and spending $100,000 a month on Google ads, or crushing your Facebook ads, or the Florida bar just changed the lawyer requirements on running targeted ads to increase the requirements for the ads to make them almost not effective at all. We want you to have that consistent base of referrals at the end, but a lot of people need money faster. So we can help you get that caseload to grow that allows you to, focus or follow up correctly and then track the leads to see which campaigns are getting you the best ones.
Yeah. So a couple of things you said triggered some questions. So hopefully we'll get through all of them and I'll remember all of them. But the first one being, so somebody comes through the door and you determine that, okay, our best course of action is plan A. How long does it take to determine if plan A is working, and when do you switch to plan B? And asked differently, if somebody starts working with you or with any marketing agency, what is a good time frame for them to allow for things to start to work? Because my guess is that you said it's an art, not a science. And so it's a matter of testing to see what's going to work and then playing with it, tweaking it. And I think that part of the problem might be people giving up too quickly. Oh, I hired you to do marketing.
Right.
3 months, the phone hasn't rang. So you're not doing a good job. I'm going to go find another person. In the meantime, had they waited 3 more months, maybe the phone would have been ringing off the hook. So can you shed any light on what that looks like, the time frame from when you bring somebody in until there's a good chance you're not seeing results, it's time to move on, or this is how long you should expect before starting to see results?
So the more data that they already have, the easier it is to do those things faster. So if we're working, we've worked with people that have run firms for as long as I've been alive. And thankfully, at some point, they tracked at least like a P&L every month or something like that. And so we could see that, okay, March is their best month every year, June's their worst month every year. So if we're going to run those ads from March to June, we're going to see a downturn, but if less of a downturn than they normally see, that's better for them. If you're coming in from nothing, I would say if you're coming from nothing and you are the type of lawyer where your clients pay you with tax returns, then we want to shoot for about a 3-month window that hopefully involves the tax return season, like right now. If you're doing SEO, I don't like people messing with SEO in less than 6 months, just because there's so many different things that we can and can't control when it comes to Google. But in terms of those ads, the Facebook ads, the Google ads, something along those lines, 3 months is a good time frame. And we're always going to try, for the most part, I'd like to try 3 different plans at once. And so that might be 3 different ads with different wording, different language, different calls to action. And then we can track those for 3 months and all right, ad A did nothing at all in that time frame. Great, we're done. Ad B got a lot of leads but didn't close as much. So can we tweak it a little bit to make it sell better? Ad C didn't generate as much leads but generated more closing people. What is it about ad C that may have appealed to? Was it where we had it? Is it how we phrased it? Whatever. And then we'll just keep trying and, in essence, split testing things over and over again to keep everything going as best as possible.
Okay, awesome. And what size firm at revenue or marketing budget is the bare minimum where somebody can start to hire an outside marketer? If somebody's brand new out of the gate, unless they have money that they're investing in their firm, chances are they've got to do a more guerrilla marketing, hands-on approach, which I want to ask you about separately. But at some point, it's worthwhile for them to start to invest in marketing and bring a marketer on board. What is that? Is there a key metric that they should be looking at to determine whether it's time for them?
So it's going to be a little bit different based upon your city, based upon how you want to target. I mean, if you want to run PI ads, those are going to be a lot more expensive than running bankruptcy ads or something along those lines. I would say the ballpark's $5,000 a month, and that's not to say that we won't work with people for less than that. And obviously the more you have over that, the more we can do with it. But I would say that's about the range that you're looking for to be able to get something going with consistency. You'll have plenty of companies that will sell you SEO services for $1,000 or $1,500 a month, but they might be doing only one blog post. And then if you look at, what's it going to take to rank in your area, they may have you rank for the 700th best keyword, and they can't get you, close to page 1 for the top 600 because of what you're spending. And then you're basically throwing the money out the window because they can't do enough for that, which makes total sense. I think everybody should value their time, but I think marketing companies should be selling you on the next 30 years of your firm, not on the next 3 to 4 years of you going through this contract.
Right. So $5,000 a month in marketing budget. I got that correct, right?
Yeah, that's a good amount that allows us to play with stuff. So if we're going to run, we may run 5,000. Well, so obviously, we're going to make some money, but we may run, $4,500 worth of ads out of that or something along those lines. Then that's a good opportunity. Let's say your ads are $100 a click. Well, that's 4,500. That's 45 clicks right there. That's it. So if you're running with 2,000 and I can only get 20 clicks, then maybe that's not enough for us to see what really works, because one client or one hire or not hire can make a huge difference when you're talking about that few potential clients.
Right. So when I look at, what I think the max marketing budget should be for a firm as far as a percentage of total revenue, we're talking about you got to be at least at $400,000 or $500,000 annual revenue to be looking at a marketing budget of $5,000 a month, and even that is very aggressive. So anybody who's below that really needs to find another way. Is that the correct way to look at this?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, a lot of the things we'll talk about 8 to 10% set aside for marketing. I think some firms, you're going to be in that growth phase where you may want to be spending 15% or even 20. I'd be a little hesitant if you were looking at it at 20%, unless you really had a plan like I want to run these ads for 6 months and build up as we're going through there. But even for the attorneys less than that, then the biggest thing becomes building the infrastructure in place to hit these things. So,
Right.
We'll get attorneys who are coming from a larger firm opening up their solo shop, and we can do the Lawmatics build out for them. And maybe they just do the intake system for a year, but now I've got data that I can track on, okay, you were generating these cases from referrals, you had this many prior clients come back to you, you had this thing going on, and we can see where those numbers are as we keep going forward. Plus they've got the base to be able to do a lot more, because once we have it set up to automate, it can automate, 50 leads a month just as easily as 500 a month, just as easily as 5 a month. It's all the systems are most of the systems are in place, and that puts them in a lot better position to spend more money on advertising and then track it, because they're tracking the data even before doing the advertising.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so I got the picture, and I think our audience does too. So I'm sure that there are a number of listeners, because we've got a diverse group that are listening to this podcast. I'm sure there are a number of listeners saying, okay, this all sounds great, but how does it help me? So somebody who's at the beginning stages, they're not at $500,000 a year of revenue. As a matter of fact, they might be at no revenue. They're just starting out, or they're just generating $8,000-$10,000 a month, and they don't really have money for marketing. They're just kind of making ends meet on the stuff that's coming in. Where would you tell them to focus their marketing efforts to build up to that point where they can finally bring somebody on?
So step one, you open a firm, you've got nothing. The best place that you can go for marketing, I think, is going to be Excel or Google Sheets or something like that. And literally, as cases come in, track every single one, get as many data points as you think you're going to need. So the client's name, the client's phone number, the client's email, who referred you, did they hire, did they not hire, what kind of case it was, would you quote them, something along those lines, and literally just write it in there for free or $10 a month or whatever it costs to have access to some sort of spreadsheet like that. The benefit of that's going to be twofold. The short one is it's really easy to take that information and import it into a more definitive system later. So let's say we decide, you've got 5,000 prior clients and we want to do email marketing from day one. We've got all the emails there with the names. We can enter them into MailChimp or something along those lines. The other thing then to actually grow is I like lunch. I don't know if you can tell from the video, I'm not one who says no to lunch frequently. But really it's figuring out what sort of connections are going to work the best for you. I tell everybody my ideal definition of marketing is doing what I want to do with who I want to do it with. And so sometimes that's, going to the Orlando Magic games. Sometimes it's grabbing lunch. Sometimes that's joining an organization that has other like-minded people in it that we can bounce ideas off of each other. So it still goes back to basically the same question as our ideal client. We're just switching it for your ideal referral source and where they're going to be. And you've got to go there for free or for as cheaply as possible.
Yeah, thanks for giving us a clip to put in our social media graphics, your definition of marketing. I love that. Doing what I want to do with who I want to do it with, or something along those lines. We'll get your exact words in there, but I really love that.
The ideal marketing is doing what you want to do with who you want to do it with.
Yeah, there you go.
You're going to make a million other decisions correctly when you've overcome that. You're going to have fun in the moment. They're going to have fun. You're going to vibe. You're going to get to know each other, like each other, trust each other. I see people all the time that are super introverted and they force themselves to go out to these things and they stay in the corner, or they're nervous the whole time, or they don't enjoy it. And it's, they're pissed off the entire time. It's easier to give yourself less strife.
Yeah, totally. And that's, how do you get somebody to launch is a whole nother question. We can go down that road. But what I tell my coaching clients is, you're in this guerrilla marketing kind of phase where you just kind of need to try everything and see what sticks, and just, whether it's picking up the phone, whether it's shaking hands with people at networking events, whether it's, just going to other attorneys who might not be, there's going to be some work that they're not interested in doing, and let them send you the work that they're not interested in. Their leftovers can be your meal. And that's, you just got to get started somewhere, and have a place for the dollars to start coming in, start creating a name for yourself and building that book of business. Some people are lucky enough to walk in with, bringing clients from their previous firm and walk in with a book of business. But if you're not, and you don't have a network, you just got to start creating it. And don't hide behind that. Oh, I don't have a network. I don't, I'm an introvert. All of those things are really just excuses you're giving yourself to shy away from the things that you need to do to make it happen. So I want to ask you, Jordan, you mentioned Lawmatics a number of times. I understand Lawmatics is a CRM system to keep track of those sales that are coming in, make sure you're not dropping the ball, stay on top of your whatever system you use to go after leads, and stay on top of the next step, and make sure that you're staying in touch with them. Tell me a little bit about that system. There's others out there. I know that Clio's got one. They made a purchase, and it's now Clio Grow. How do those systems compare? How do you choose Lawmatics? What's the benefit of that one? Does it integrate with other applications? Just give me a little rundown on that piece of software itself.
So I get no financial benefit from Lawmatics. Well, I shouldn't say that. Lawmatics gives me no direct financial benefit. I have saved thousands and thousands of dollars by using their program because I didn't have to hire more staff because we closed more cases, etc. In 8-something years of being an attorney, Lawmatics is the only program I've ever seen that was geared for attorneys that I thought, oh my God, this does more than I expected, as opposed to this does way less than I expected, as opposed to they're giving me a 300% markup because this is lawyer focused, even though this is basically Smokeball, just made for lawyers, when I could get Smokeball for free or almost free. So what I love about Lawmatics is it's hardwired to do the intake, but through that, it'll automate text messages to clients. It'll automate emails to clients. It also has basically the same functionality as MailChimp on the back end. So you can do your newsletters all drag and drop through it, all in one system the whole way through. And then you can run any sort of custom fields you want. So you can cross-reference whatever cases you want. I mean, if you want to put, the zip code that this client came from, great. If you want to put the name of the chiropractor, great. If you want to put the location of the chiropractor that referred it, I mean, whatever you need, you can create any custom field the whole way through. And then you can run reports off of every custom field to see who's sending what over what period of time, from where to where, whether they're good cases, whether they hire, whether they don't. And you can also run a case management system in there as long as you don't need hourly billing. That's like the one thing that it won't do. But a lot of estate planning attorneys will run the entire length of their practice all through Lawmatics because it'll auto-generate all the forms. It'll automate all of the getting, the information you need from clients. It'll do everything you need there because they don't have to do hourly billing. It's all flat fee.
What's the learning process for somebody who decides, oh, this really sounds intriguing, I want to implement it in my firm? How long will it take them to learn how to use it, implement it? And I don't mean have it. You probably took years to build out exactly the way that you're using it, but building it out enough that there's enough automation in there that they're getting benefit, significant benefit from it, and it's working to their advantage.
So it's a steep learning curve from doing it yourself from scratch. Because that's the flip side to having so much customization is you have to customize all of it, and you need to figure out where to customize things in the right place. So that's been a long thing. And then they'll add features every now and then, which is great. It'll just make more work. So they basically added acuity functionality to it over the last couple months. You could book things before, but you couldn't schedule out certain times. You couldn't limit what days. You couldn't do all those things through it. So they've added that. From our standpoint, though, I mean, in essence, I can make it so the attorney gets an email an hour before every consult that has all the data that's already been taken by the office staff for the intake with everything, and you just pop in whatever edits you need to it, figure out the pricing, and then contracts and invoices go out automatically. So once everything's set up, the learning curve can be super easy because you can create custom intake forms, you can do instructions in that, you can do required fields, you can do contingent fields, you can make questions only come up if the intake staff picks something else. I mean, it's just insane what the program does.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. I think that it's absolutely critical that you have some sort of CRM, some sort of system to not only do the tracking. I mean, you talk a lot about tracking your metrics and things like that, but in the Law Firm Growth Summit that we ran, we had a speaker, Jan Roos, who talked about basically the hidden funnel, which is the people that are coming through as leads and are not making it through to that sales process, whether it's a consult or whatever it is. You have the leads coming in the door, but then somewhere something's broken and they're not actually making it to the point where you can sell them something. And those are people that's happening because of a broken process, because you're either missing steps, you're dropping the ball, or you're not aggressive enough. You're not hitting them on enough points. So I love that you can email, you can text, and have all of that automated so that you're taking out the human element of missing the step, and you're just putting the humans in where they need to be, which is for the actual consult and for the actual phone call with the client, with the potential client.
Well, and to make it even better than that, we have people that don't hire us, but then refer us business. They went through the system, they liked it, they just weren't ready to pull the trigger, they couldn't afford it, etc. But then we got them on the newsletter automatically through Lawmatics that goes out anyway. And then, 3 months later, they're like, oh my God, my friend so-and-so got in a car accident. I thought you guys were great. I couldn't afford it, but I'm assuming this case is free. I sent them your information.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. And that goes back to some of the newsletter is one of the more basic aspects of marketing that people think, oh, I'll get to that when I get to it. It doesn't have value for me today because I don't have anybody to send it to. But if that list grows over time and you just keep sending that newsletter out, if you're consistent about it, it's kind of like this podcast, right? If I had recorded a few episodes back in March of last year and then let it sit for 6 months and recorded a few more episodes, let it sit, I'd have nobody listening to it. But I came back every week and kept recording those episodes, kept putting them out week after week. And that grew my audience. People are listening to it. And eventually there's enough people listening to it that I have a steady flow of clients coming in for my business and I don't need to worry about it. That can happen with the newsletter just from all the people that you've been exposed to.
Well, did you see, to give a shout out to two other Max Law members, Ernie the attorney and John Rafferty did a podcast for Ernie's law firm Autopilot about email marketing. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I saw them mention it. I didn't listen to it.
Oh, so John Rafferty, who's in the Max Law group as well, put together this email. It's like legal tidbits. Literally, there might be 50 words in this email. And it's just, this is an interesting case that came up. Here's 3 cases I'm working on. See you next month. And sent it out to, I think it was 200 people, and ended up with like 5 or 6 hired clients on an email that took, probably took 3 or 4 hours to game plan, making it so not dense, making it so specific and making it so targeted. But then, to do that email the next month might only take 5 or 10 minutes to make those edits. So, don't think that you need to put together some wonderful newsletter that's going to win all these awards. It's going to get showcased in the Louvre for being, the most beautiful piece of art ever. You're better off getting something that's going to appeal to your clients, keep you top of mind, something along those lines, which may intentionally be shorter or more specific. That may be better for them.
Yeah. And when people are wondering like what should go into the newsletter, I like to share a win for the firm. So if you have anything that the firm did that's exciting to talk about, whether it's a case that was won or even just an event you participated in, or an award that you got, or anything like that, something that shows the success of the firm, and then also an educational piece. So something that would be good for whoever is getting the newsletter, something informational that they'll appreciate and say, oh, I didn't know that. That's good to know. Just those 2 pieces of information, that's enough. Like, it doesn't need to be, we call it a newsletter, but it doesn't need to be like 7 articles that they have to click through and go to. It just needs to provide some level of value that somebody is interested in opening up the next one.
Yeah, and honestly, one of the best ones that we got from our response-wise, we did like the 4 or 5 nicest pumpkin patches within an hour of Orlando. And we had like 15 people that sent us pictures of their kids at the pumpkin patch, wrote back how great it was, they enjoyed the time. Has absolutely nothing to do with any law, but it let me know that at least 15 people read the newsletter.
Right. Absolutely. And it also tells you what people are interested in, right? So, I don't know what the subject line of the email was, but, if now I know that people are interested in knowing this kind of stuff, then even if most of my email is not about that, as long as I include it, that could be my subject line, which gets people to open it and be interested in reading the email. Because the subject line, everything that you do has a purpose. The subject line's purpose is to get them to open. The first paragraph's purpose is to get them to read the rest of the email. The email's purpose is to get them to take the next action, whatever the desired action is. So you have to just keep that in mind. Like, the first step is get somebody interested in opening the email, which is quite a battle these days. So if you can come up with ideas like that, where, you know, they see it and they're like, this law firm is sending me this, but it's about pumpkin patches in Orlando. Let me check this out. You know, that's something that'll help increase your open rate.
Right. Well, and so like from the marketing company side, we're working on an email ad that basically says, "Oh no, another stupid marketing company trying to sell me stuff," as the tagline.
Right.
So, you know, just I like zigging when other people zag. I like putting a little bit of humor into it, and I think that makes memorability as well as engagement.
Yeah. My friend Andy Stickle does this, and I don't know where he resides in your world of competition for marketing, but his tagline is to not be taken by marketing companies. I forget exactly the wording of it. I have to go back and find it.
Taken advantage of. Yeah, I mean, Andy, listen, yes, we're competing over the same people. If I lose somebody to Social Firestarter, I'm so much happier than losing them to some, 16-year-old in their parents' basement just pulling money from attorneys left and right. So
yeah, and that's the thing is what I've found in the legal space is confusion about who is a good marketer, right? So there's a ton of marketing agencies, and it's gotten more crowded. Like, there's a ton of marketing agencies that specifically say, I market for law firms. Like, that's my thing. And they're not all good. They don't all do a good job. And that's part of the problem is figuring that out and needing to weed through all of these options and find the good ones, find the diamond in the rough, and find the right one to work with. And it's something that my clients struggle with. And, you know, maybe ultimately one day we'll have a list of vendors, you know, preferred vendors that we recommend that you work with, and that might help. But it is something that people struggle with. So knowing who the good ones are out there is an important piece of the puzzle for sure.
well, the beauty of it is literally every business has the same problems. At the end of the day, we all want to make more money for less work, or at least for easier work. And so a huge component of that is marketing. You know, the more cases that come in, the better those cases are, the better those clients are, the more the value is, the less work you have to do, or the easier the work is to do. And that's everybody. I mean, go talk to brewery owners, go talk to insurance people, go talk to, tax attorneys or accountants or bookkeepers. Everyone's going to have the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the same conundrum, right? So trying to figure that out. And I think a lot of it is learning. A lot of it is you got to get into the weeds. You got to understand your market. You got to understand your geographic region, your options. And some of that will get assisted with a marketing agency and, let them do what they do best. But you also need to understand what's going on. You can't just hand it off to somebody and say, here, you do it, and then I can just run my law practice and not worry about it. You really need to understand what they're doing and how to know whether it's working or not, and whether you need to do other things in addition to it, and what's required of you to make them a success.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that at least for me, that's the goal. The goal is to be able to be fully hands off, but that's not a 6-month goal. That's not a year goal. That might be a 3-year goal, for a 2 or 3-year goal for, you find the right marketing company. But who knows? Tomorrow they could pass a law or change a statute that completely undermines your entire case, and the marketing stuff, you need to completely change avenues, which is unfortunate. Yeah. That's the reality that we live in.
Yeah, unfortunately, that does happen. And my background's accounting, and Trump came in and new tax law, and all of a sudden, accountants thought, oh my gosh, we're going to be out of business, simplifying the tax code. Turns out that he, really gave us this Section 199A, the QBI deduction, which creates all kinds of business for accountants. But you never know. You never know when something is going to significantly affect your business, your industry, your ability to make money, and you need to be ready to pivot. I'm a big proponent of focusing in on one practice area and one niche, but ultimately, once you've conquered that practice area, you've conquered that niche, there's nothing wrong with adding another one. because you've now figured out all the pieces you need to figure out. Let that piece run, and now just start again with another niche or another practice area. And then this way, you're also spreading yourself. You're not having all your eggs in one basket, where if the law changes, if things change, the landscape changes, you're not stuck with your entire practice drying up. So, Jordan, one of the things that you're going to come across, or you've already come across, is you're the marketing guy, right? And you help a law firm bring leads in. But if they don't do a good job in closing those leads, then essentially they might turn around and say, hey, you're not doing a good job. So what do you do to filter those people out at the onset? What do you do to help them in that process to make sure that they actually do have a journey that will lead to a close, or do you not get involved in that at all?
No, I mean, that's a huge component of setting up Lawmatics for them. I mean, they may be the worst salesperson in the world, but if we write really good drip campaigns about, prior great reviews they've had and awards that they've won and what sets them apart from the attorney down the street, then, them just being a nice person over the phone or at that consultation may be enough because we're supporting you with the sales stuff. I'm not a big Clio fan. I know you mentioned about them bringing, buying out Lexicata for Clio Grow, but Clio does their year-end legal trends, and I think that's one of the best studies done on attorneys. And it found like 68% of attorneys don't follow up. And so you're sitting right there, and if somebody sits down with 3 attorneys, statistically 2 of them will never go back to that client or potential client to try and follow up. If I can make you the one who does, then you may get a close solely because there was a follow-up email. And it may not matter what the email says. The email could say, hey, hope you have a good day. I'm wearing pants today. Click here to pay us the retainer. But that may be enough for somebody when every other attorney never comes back to them.
Right. Yeah, that's a really, really good point. And something we spoke about a lot when that trends report came out back in November of last year, and was also a good piece for my friend Maddie Martin from Smith AI to try to convince people to take on their virtual reception service, because
Right.
not having, they take over not just the answering of the call, but also some of that follow-up during the sales process and communication on the website with the chatbot. So there's definitely things that you can do to enhance the interaction that somebody is having with your firm. All right, so Jordan, as we are wrapping up time here, running out of time, this has been a great conversation. Any final pieces of information that you want to share with our audience? Any, top tips, something lasting that they can take and do something with today to say, okay, if I do this one thing, that's going to make a difference for me. What do you think?
So that's it's a tough question. The softballs sometimes are the hardest ones to hit. The biggest thing for me to give somebody advice right now that they can do something for free is, you tell your clients why they should hire you. They shouldn't go their own way because you're an expert in the field, because you've got this training, you've got this experience, etc. But then when you run into a situation of something that you're not good at, you put yourself as the client and you try to do it yourself as opposed to hiring the expert. So what I would love to say is, to the extent that you can, as much as you financially can, treat yourself the same way you treat clients and bring in those experts and hire them. And that may be somebody for marketing help, or you may be fantastic at that and you may need to outsource real legal work. Or it could be as easy as just having somebody else mow your lawn because you hate doing it, they're great at it. And then in exchange for that, you go grab lunch with somebody, or you go hang out and grab a beer with 3 or 4 friends and market that way. I mean, as business owners, we don't just have to look at cost, we have to look at opportunity cost. And I think, the people that roll up their sleeves and constantly want to work harder or work more hours or something like that will find themselves stuck in the same problem because they don't want to work smarter and they don't want to make the experts, allow the experts to do their own job. So maybe the advice is free. The execution of it may not be free, but in the long run, I think you put yourselves in a much better spot than trying to do everything yourself.
Yeah, I love that was your parting piece of wisdom, because it's so true, and it's in every aspect of your firm. I see it a lot on the the bookkeeping side. Either your books are a mess, or you're trying to do your own bookkeeping, and if you don't absolutely love bookkeeping, then freaking outsource that thing so that you can actually know your numbers and be able to operate your business from a perspective of understanding what's going on and actually making decisions that make sense based on the reality of the situation and not just your belief of what might be happening. So when it comes to marketing, good point, Jordan, either spend the money on the marketing to have somebody professional do it, or spend money on other things to open you up, to free you up for those opportunities where you can create those possibilities for yourself and for your firm. Jordan, this has been absolutely fun. I appreciate you being here. Why don't you take a moment and just let people know where they can follow up with you if they want to contact you directly? What's the next step for them to take to get into your world?
Sure. So in going back to something I said before, but I always try to be funny. So it's LegalEase Marketing, EASE. So I literally created the name of the marketing company around a pretty, solid lawyer dad joke. So LegalEase, EASE marketing.com. You can check us out there. You can check us out on Facebook. Right now, what we're doing for the entirety of this year, we're doing the 15-minute firm fix. So there's like 1 to 2 minute video that we drop every single day that gives you about a 15-minute task that you can work on for your firm. Most of them are free. So we went through, some of the different lawyer directories. You can go ahead and update. And it was amazing. I got an email a couple weeks ago that somebody had gone through it, updated their Justia profile or something like that, and then signed up a $6,000 case 2 weeks later off the free Justia profile. So they were very happy with me. I was very happy for them. And, hopefully they'll continue to follow the videos and get more and more success.
Awesome. So folks, go check that out. We'll link it up in the show notes as well. If you're in the iTunes podcast player or any of the other ones, we try to create those links so it shows up right in the description of the episode. Some of them, it works really well, and some of them doesn't work so well, but you can always reach any of our episodes by just going to profitwithlaw.com/ and then the number of the episode. I don't know what number this episode will be, so I'm not giving it here, but profitwithlaw.com/ for example, 069 would be episode 69. So just look at the number of this episode and you can go to the show notes. We'll link everything up there as well as the LegalEase website. And Jordan, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate your time, and everybody here appreciates the wisdom and sharing of information.
Thank you so much for having me.
Have you been enjoying the show? We sure hope so. To make sure you never miss an episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button in your podcast player app. Next week, we will be back with more valuable resources and ideas on how to break the mold and take your law firm to the next level.